Hello, dear friends. If we lose our freedom, we destroy ourselves. Abraham Lincoln. Opinion piece. The Great Shift. New Dawn. Final phase. It's gradual. It's not abrupt. Metamorphosis. Mass awakening. It begins with you. The best is coming. Time for concession. 5 years and counting. Let's start. The Great Shift is underway and is aligned with astronomical cycles, especially with the precession of the equinoxes, which is a cycle of about 26,000 years, according to Cryon through Lee Carroll. He maintains that the period of global transformation is in its final phase and will end in 2030. It's not an abrupt event because the energy of transformation can be prolonged and the true change will be gradual, not instantaneous. The period of change began some 30 to 36 years ago with a window of transformation that will end in 5 years around 2030. Thus, the window of change and insanity of the end times caused by the exposure of old energies and systems is in its final 5 years, but a transition toward greater maturity solutions and the spiritual awakening is anticipated, far from a disaster scenario. He affirms that far from disaster, this transition will give way to greater social and spiritual clarity, collective solutions, and maturity. What remains are 5 years of intense but positive changes that precede a time of greater harmony and awakening. Cryon calls for a shift away from catastrophic predictions of pessimism and fatalism, doom and gloom. According to the message, the shift will be toward greater clarity, solutions, and maturity, not destruction. The shift implies that the light has been turned on and the dead has been exposed, revealing humanity's underlying problems for resolution. At the end of these 5 years, a gradual process of social and cultural stabilization, continued spiritual awakening, and positive process is expected. He mentions the Maya calendar and its culmination in 2012 as part of this larger astronomical cycle. The calendar consisted of 5 cycles of approximately 5,000 years within the framework of the precession of the equinoxes. The end of the old cycle represents the beginning of a new evolutionary stage for humankind, associated with a dimensional shift or paradigm shift. Cryon invites hope and celebration, not fear. The end of the window of change will give way to a more mature era, with greater opportunities for social and spiritual transformation. In short, the message doesn't speak of destruction, but rather of transition and collective opportunity, and the reference to 5 years and counting alludes to the period remaining until the end of the window of great change, which culminates around 2030. Time of grant. According to Cryon, the time of grant is a special period during which permission is given for profound transformation and spiritual learning. It is an interval in which energetic structures and human consciousness are aligned and harmonized, allowing internal aspects to be rebuilt and restored, and an opportunity to collectively advance toward greater integrity and spiritual maturity. This type of concession implies that humanity receives support and openness to evolve, experience, and awaken during the global process of change. Within this gradual process, news comes out that attracts attention, but it doesn't all happen suddenly, but little by little. The years seem very long, but they are almost nothing compared to cosmic time. Those who do not achieve ascension with their physical body will achieve it with their astral body. Therefore, there is no cause for concern but rather hope. The great change is not instantaneous like Nescafe, nor is it designed for the impatient, and it is not programmed for those who seek spectacular or sensational events, because it is so gentle and gradual that it is almost unnoticeable, unless your perception is very fine. All things under the sun have a time and a season, as Ecclesiastes says, and every event comes as at its perfect moment. In quotes. For everything under the sun there is a season and a time. There is a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot. There is a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. There is a time to cast stones and a time to gather them up, a time to embrace and a time to part. There is a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away. There is a time to rent and a time to sue, a time to be silent and a time to speak. There is a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. That which has been is already, and that which is to be has been. And God restores what has passed away. Ecclesiastes 3:1. Reset news. Precious metals and quantum finance ignite a dinar and Vietnamese dong explosion. Buckle up. When President Bukele uses that popular expression, you know the time has come. According to Mike Adams, the world is abandoning the dollar and choosing gold as its currency. This will accelerate the collapse of the West, along with its war, psychological operations, and depopulation agendas. Don't give up. The best is yet to come. Commercial values will return to those of the 50s. Everyone will be able to buy a house and a car thanks to the Gisela law. Life will be cheap and enjoyable again. Trust in God and don't give up the fight. Digital dictatorship fails. Nepal's social media censorship sparks mass protests. Nepal lifts social media ban following Generation Z protests. Leaked documents revealed the Committee of 300 agenda to erase borders, destroy the family, collapse religion, digitize humanity, and crush industrial independence. The main supporters of the Davos Forum left in July. The IMF has lost US cooperation. 11 countries withdraw from the WHO treaty. Food companies linked to Davos subsidies are under investigation. Tucker Carlson will publish the first part of the truth about what happened on 9/11. Thursday, September 11th, 2025, is also Rosh Hashanah, the trumpet blast, the coronation feast, and the Jewish New Year. New Dawn. For most of your life, money has meant control. Control over where you live, what you eat, how much time you can spend with your loved ones, whether you can take time off when you are sick or even retire. Control that has never truly yours, no matter how hard you worked. Behind every loan, every bank transfer, every approval, there were silent systems designed not to help you, but to trap you in debt without dignity, in work without liberation, in movement without meaning. But here is what they don't want you to know. That system is already failing, and whatever replaces it will feel like breathing clean air for the first time. In Iceland, a cooperative digital wallet program allows citizens to exchange services without recourse to central banks. A neighbor can exchange energy credits for groceries. Teachers receive direct payments from the community for their private lessons. No banks, no intermediaries. It works outside the fiat network, but within a moral network. In South Korea, businesses are testing programmable vouchers. Tokens can only be used for essential items, eliminating waste, corruption, and access control. That's a public service without bureaucracy. In Ghana, rural farmers are being paid in blockchain-backed tokens with stable value, backed by real assets, not manipulated by war or inflation. They no longer depend on banks. They depend on the field and the phone. Since mid-July 2025, the quantum financial system has been operating in secret test zones in 14 countries. They are reaching ordinary people. Every step is under military supervision. The future isn't being used here. It's happening now. Engineers are coding. Gold is moving. Vaults are being opened. Justice is being done. Be silent. Comply and distrust intermediaries when the QFS calls. The secret is in your DNA. The claim is the vault. The system is the future. The emergency broadcast system is already in place and is not expected to arrive. Starlink satellites connected to the power grid provide communication in the event of a blackout. Test signals were sent this month. The final authorization key was activated on August 21st. The facilities are available. The information is secure. It just requires the right timing. Middle East. Israel accepts Trump's proposal for a ceasefire in Gaza. Israel attacks Hamas in Qatar while negotiating a truce in Gaza. The Security Council holds an emergency meeting to discuss the attack on Qatar. The Lebanese government commits to completely disarming Hezbollah. Europe. More than 50,000 homes and countless businesses went dark in Berlin early Tuesday morning when power pylons were deliberately set on fire. The French government is collapsing, and now there are demands for Macron's dismissal, impeachment or resignation. France will be paralyzed for 2 days as people take to the streets to demand change. France risk premium surpasses Italy's and ranks as the worst in the Eurozone. NATO deployed fighter jets while Russian drones entered Polish airspace overnight. Russia says it did not plan to attack targets on Polish territory. Americas. Lack of worship in Mexico forces churches to close. The jaguar population in Mexico is recovering and growing by 10% in 6 years. Cuba suffers a total power outage. Milei's electoral setback unleashes a storm in the markets. Bolivia ranks as one of the nations with the cheapest fuel. Bolivia's monetary reserves have grown by 30% so far this year. Costa Rica is the country with the most young people living at home with their parents. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.